What's up, everybody? It's your boy Mark Sully. I appreciate you for coming into the channel. I just wanted to go and piggyback off of the second video that I dropped, which was like my upbringing through middle school. So now I just want to tap into like the transition to high school and how that went, how my parents' dynamic was and everything, and how I got in trouble in middle school and got expelled and went to St. Paul. Through the process of all of that happening in like eighth grade, I think eighth or ninth grade is when our parents separated and got divorced. Um, Now, keep in mind, like, I come from a background with a dad who is retired military, so he ain't really play that. I was bad in school shit, right? He really didn't. So for other reasons, we couldn't really be around him at that time. And for me, like getting disciplined my whole life, bro, I was like, shit, okay, sweet. I can chill with my mom or whatever. She's more chill or whatever. So I was able to, get away with a lot more that I was not able to get away when I was under his roof, in a sense. And I remember in like ninth grade, I was staying between both of my grandma's house, but my grandma, not my great grandma's house, but between my grandma and my great grandma's house. And when you get kicked out of public school in Savannah, you got to go to like an alternative school for however long. So in the ninth grade, I start going to, well, I tried to go back to public school. Yeah, I tried to go to my public school, Jenkins, and then we had to have a meeting with the principal, whatever. He was just telling me some bull, some BS. Like I was like the scum of the earth, but I was literally like 14 years old, you know, um, in an environment that was not conducive to my growth at the time, right? So this is my transition into like my YN years, right? So, and this is like 2009, by the way. So I'm transitioning to my YN years and tried to go to Jenkins. Principal said no. My mom was staying in Garden City, and the closest school to her was another high school, right? So the other high school, the other public high school let me in, right? So I'm in there for like maybe a couple weeks, few weeks, couple weeks or whatever. And then I first get my first little ISS or whatever. And then they checking shit. They like, bro, you're not even supposed to be back in public school. So immediately they say I gotta leave, right? So leave school that day. And then I start my school year at Scott, which was like an alternative school. I don't think that's even around anymore. Uh, and this is YN Central, right? You got every hood, every gang, all these affiliations in this school, right? And then you got a whole side with just felons, right? They can't mix with the students who have misdemeanors and stuff. So that was a wild experience. I did learn a lot, and I also like. This is also the time like my uncle coming home off like a long bid, so he already kind of prepared me. Like in hindsight, like he was on me, um, like every day when I was staying with my grandma, and that kind of prepared me to have the mentality for what I was getting, what I didn't know I was stepping into. Now, granted, I ain't really even getting in no trouble. I don't even think I got suspended ever at that school. I just had my head down so I can get the fuck out and go back to public school. But one thing I did learn from that experience is what I did not want to do, right? Like a lot of these people, they parole officers and stuff coming up to school, they going to jail. You might see them one day, they might be gone for another month or 2 months because they done went to jail for violating or went to a camp, all kind of stuff. So it was a very criminalistic type school. You had to get searched every day and turn in your phones and all type of stuff. So that was pretty much how that experience went. I learned, you know, one, to watch your mouth, right? I mean, it's just basic stuff that my dad taught me, just simple respect. Like a lot of times when people getting in issues, there was like a lack of maturity, which I feel like I already kind of was, and a lack of education because a lot of people were, they were kind of failing. They didn't care about the work, but based on, like my academic or educational background, like it was a lot easier for me to navigate through that school. Um, and not everybody there was really even bad. Like some people, you could go there just for getting into a fight, right? That's just a pretty normal thing in the city that I'm from. All right, so boom. So I ain't really doing too much at this time. I think I might be smoking a little bit of weed or whatever. Um, but I'm not really like stepping into my true YN form just yet. Like I'm learning uh, what it takes to be bad, right? But that's what got me there in the first place, just being real slick. I never was a bad kid, right? Never gave anybody no issues, but I just always was real slick, right? I wanted to be uh, joking, like show people that I can't get caught. And then all of that came crashing down, obviously, when I got caught in middle school with weed and stuff like that, right? Um, so yeah, in ninth grade, head down, really just chilling. Uh, that year goes by. I get out and I'm like, shoot, yeah, bro, I'm out this thing. I'm out. So it's like 10th grade now. Uh, and then I go back to try to go to public school, right? So I go to Windsor and everything. And at this point, me and my brother are kind of already like, my mom got a place or whatever, and we was living together and stuff. And then my mom, she started dating this dude, and at this point, like me and bro, like we got the crib to ourselves. So, like now I'm kind of smoking weed again. I remember, and but it got to the point we smoking in the house. We like 14, 15. Like okay, and this is the transition into the YN. And I got a job, so I think at Scott, I think I got a job. Yeah, I was at Scott working after school or whatever. But I was so young that I couldn't work no later than 7. Like I think I was like 14, 15, so I couldn't work no later than 7. But I used to catch the school bus to go walk across the street to work, and that was cool. But then I'm gonna take y'all to like my 10th grade transition. So like I'm going to school, but I also got the freedom, right? I ain't really got no mama or no daddy telling me, yo, you need to go your ass to school and stuff like that. So I'm like I'm going, but I'm also like, when I'm going, I'm sleeping in classes, right? I'm not slow or anything like that, but I'm more so trying to do my own thing, right? That's exactly what I was doing. And then, in between all this time, I'm going to school high, uh, sleeping through classes, going to school kind of when I went. Most of the time, I'm not, and really just not really focused. And again, like the work is not hard. I just felt like, why, you know? And then at this point, like I'm experiencing living as an adult, kind of, like in 10th grade. So I had like the freedom to do what I wanted. And then, I think that's kind of around the time where I'm like, bro, I'm smoking weed damn near every day. I might as well just start selling it, right? So I think I got on that wave around that time. Now, keep in mind, I got a job the whole high school, right? Just to keep myself busy. And yeah, it just started getting bigger. I do not support or condone anybody selling drugs to further their life, right? Unless you're doing it in a legal and a righteous way. Back then, I was young. I really didn't know the consequences of it. Thank God that I never got caught up with the shit, and I got past that chapter of my life to where I can move on to better things, right? And then 11th grade, pretty much like the same thing over again, and then just staying consistent, doing the same things, missing school, skipping class. Couldn't get my driver's license because I had like a truancy from missing so much school. So again, stay in school, right? Unless something in your spirit is genuinely telling you that you have something to do better. But education is always, for sure, going to be number one. Because if it wasn't for the earlier years of education, bro, I probably wouldn't even be able to read. Junie B. Jones has a peep in her pocket book type dude. So make sure that I'm telling you all just to kind of make sure that you getting your education right and learning how to read and write and comprehend. And then 12th grade, right? Uh, I was jugging, finessing, and flexing till I ran into okay, right? So I had like an opportunity to come around with a dude. And then my senior year, like it was rough, like throughout the whole high school, not really having like that parent structure. I'm just doing what I want. And I was going through like waves of depression and anger, like, bro, like I'm seeing all my homies and stuff going home to um, their parents and having parents and stuff like that. Maybe some of y'all probably can relate to having like the parent household, but like just imagine well, I'm blessed to have had what I had as long as I did have it, right? Some people don't have either one, but for ones who may have went through a situation like that where you grow up in like a two-parent household and then all of that is gone, like literally like overnight, and then having to navigate your way, it can be tough and it can be challenging, especially if your brain is not developed enough to process it, or you didn't really have the opportunity to process things like that throughout your life, right? So yeah, back to jugging, finessing, and flexing, ran into the plug. So you know, doing my thing in high school, like all of the, it's like one day, like, and then I'll have to go into like all the details, other story times in another video, but basically, um, I went into like my senior year with, I think, 11 and a half credits. You need like 24 to graduate. And then I remember, I'll never forget, like my mama asked me like, well, so are you just gonna give up or whatever? And I remember like how it made me feel, because I'm like, damn, bro, like I'm really dropping the ball on this, you know? But I really know that, I mean, it was some BS anyway. I wasn't really learning anything for me to really do what I'm doing now. But I really, I don't know how, well, I do know how, by the grace of God, I was able to get more than half of my credits in 1 year. They had like after school programs that you can go to catch up. And I ended up graduating on time in my 4 years, going into my senior year with half of the credits that I needed throughout the 4 years. So if any kids or anything going through a situation like that, just don't give up for sure. Cause like anything is possible for real. Like I didn't even have any intentions to graduate, until like I had that conversation. I'm like, oh, okay, well, let me try, and then God came through and that's what it was. So that's pretty much like my high school experience. It's probably thousands of stories in between that. Uh, I can go into maybe in other times, or if y'all have any questions about it, just let me know.